Jeff, a very exciting start to the Sheffield Shield. You were going through the cards on this. I was trying to track the scores this morning as well, but we didn't get the proper Shield preview in that I was desperate to do with Louis Cameron. We'll do that next week, and we'll have the benefit of, I suppose, 1 week's cricket to go on as well, which is always handy. But, yeah, there's a bit of a who's who in the zoo on who's playing and who's not after the one-day and T20 series from England, who's rested, who's trying to make a run for the Test side with an eye to not only the Test against India, but also the tour to Sri Lanka in late January and early February.
Okay, so here are a couple of the bits that are interesting to me. Look at players from the one-day series. First, Stark and Hazelwood are rested for the first Shield game. No surprises there. Cummins gets rested despite not being on the white ball tour at all. I mean, I know he's got a book coming out, but he can't be that tired. Like, surely he wasn't proofing it himself at 4 a.m. the night before it went off to print like we were.
I think he just started bowling last week. It'll be loads. I think I saw him do an Instagram video with his first bowl back. It was like, you know, and as with any fast bowler, they do heaps and heaps of loading up.
Build up.
I heard that they're all playing next week. The MCG Victoria game, the Test attack are playing in that game.
Right. That's the word. Scott Boland has also been rested for this first week because he's had injury recovery, which just makes me wonder, is he still in the frame? Like Cummins, 18 months ago was like, Boland is my next in line. He's the one I want to use. He's the one who gets the nod in the World Test Championship final. But he's no younger than any of those other guys.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised. I mean, the Scott Boland story, I mean, they should make a film out of it. I think I said that when he took his 6-for-on debut. It is a movie script, right? But, and he did a sensational job on that final day of the World Test Championship final and played his role at Edgbaston and, has really never let Australia down at any stage. But I think that with him, or rather, if they need a 4th or 5th or 6th fast bowler this summer, they are within their rights to look to Generation Next. That'd be my sense of the situation.
That is also what I would guess, but it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. So from the one-day team in the batting ranks, Smith and Maxwell got rested. Labuschagne, Head, Marsh, Carey did not get rested, all played. A lot of the one-day players are injured, so Aaron Hardy, who's probably the closest to trying to sneak a Test spot this summer, has an injury, so he's missed out. Sean Abbott's injured. Matt Short's injured after having a pretty good white ball series, and Cam Green missed with this back problem. The Cameron Green thing is interesting. At the moment, they're saying he might be able to just bat, but not bowl. So, do they pick him? I mean, his batting, his recent Test batting, his New Zealand series was so good that you kind of have to pick him just as a specialist bat if he's available. But Australia want 5 bowlers. Mitch Marsh notionally is an all-rounder, but barely bowled during the ODIs. He sent down a couple of overs. He warmed up every game, but just didn't want to bowl himself during those white ball games. Just doesn't seem confident about his body. So can you pick him if Marsh is tentative about bowling and Green can't bowl? Can you pick them both? Or if one of them misses out, does that mean, you solve your opener problem because Steve Smith can come back down to 4 and either they pick a specialist opener or the thing that we would like to see, get Glenn Maxwell into the middle order instead and continue with the sort of makeshift opener thing they've got with Labuschagne potentially doing it. There seem to be a bunch of options on the table depending on how they want to go with this all-rounder situation.
I sort of feel like if Green were to not be able to bowl, and look, Pete Lawler's done some reporting from out at the prison today, Silverwater, that Green's going better than it was thought originally. But let's go on your theory there that he might play as a batter, or on that scenario. I reckon that puts Marsh in strife because if Green's playing as a batter and they want the 5th bowler, I think Hardy plays,
right?
Which is fucking stiff for Marsh.
Yeah, but Marsh is like the player of the summer last year.
I can't tell you how stiff that is for Marsh.
They lose the Pakistan series if not for Marsh. He saves 2 Test matches last summer. So then how do you go? Well, basically the most reliable player in the team at that point.
Yeah, I just think the position he bats in. Batting at 6, it's a more expendable spot. I don't think this is reasonable. I don't think it's procedurally fair in much the same way that I think it's horrible that Marcus Harris hasn't played a Test match since he did such a great job. He played one more after Melbourne, didn't he? In 2021. He's not been seen since and had the high-vis vest on for much of that time. There are hard luck stories everywhere in cricket. And Marsh with the bowling, it's worth noting he did bowl at Lords, bowled half a dozen overs. and was so stiff that he couldn't bowl 2 days later at Bristol. So that doesn't augur well for Marsh, the all-rounder. But yeah, I think from his perspective, he'll want to see Cam Green getting in the nets, having a trundle in the next week or two, because it might it might have the knock-on effect that they see Hardy. And I think we've seen enough of Hardy, right? Hardy's clearly good enough to play Test cricket. It's just a matter of like where he eventually.
I don't know if he's good enough to bat 6. Is he quite good enough to bat 6 in a Test match? Like he was very impressive. Don't get me wrong, coming in, and he had to play a finisher's role, but he's done plenty for WA, but it's a big step.
It is, but an unbeaten 170 in a Shield final a couple of years ago. That's as close as you can get to a Test match trial in modern cricket. Yeah. So I think that I don't think they're worried about Hardy.
No.
In any other era, Green's has gotten in the way, right? Of any other all-rounder on the way through, Hardy probably would have played Test cricket a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's an interesting bit. And just on the Maxwell being rested along with Steve Smith this week, it sounds to me like, well, everyone is reporting at the moment that game at the MCG could be crackerjack next week with the Test attack playing, Smith back playing for New South Wales, and then Maxwell playing for the Vicks. That could be it might be the sort of thing where people fly in to cover a Shield round, old school. So a lot of our colleagues will need to be at Melbourne for 4 days for that.
Well, you mentioned hard luck stories, so we can start the Shield round with Michael Neser, who's one of the ultimate hard luck stories, and Cameron Bancroft wants that opener spot if Cameron Green misses out or Mitch Marsh misses out and Smith moves. Cameron Bancroft was out with the first ball of the Sheffield Shield season to Neser, stiff, and Neser then nicks off Murray Goodwin's son, Jaden, who's now playing for WA, batting first drop. He was also out first ball, caught behind. So 2 in 2 for Neser to start the game. He's got 5 for... Yeah.
It'd be very Neser to be on it. He's taken a first-class hat-trick a couple of years ago at Glamorgan, but on a hat-trick in the first over of the season. It's very Michael Neser. Every time that people speculate that he might be done, we didn't even mention him a moment ago when referring to Scott Boland. He goes and puts himself in headlines again.
So, and by the end of the day, he's got 5 for 44, but sort of in classic Neser style, it still hasn't worked out entirely because the other opener, Sam Whiteman, makes 100. Josh Inglis makes 100, who's in great touch. They come to the rescue, so WA end up 319 for 7 and basically got away with that shocking start. Queensland used 8 bowlers at the Wacker, so that's the position at the end of their first day.
Yeah, classic Sam Whiteman, right? Whiteman, ton or a duck?
So the captain, the Marcus North of our era.
Yeah, the 3-time Sheffield Shield winning captain does it again. Over at the prison, though, Jeff, I think the biggest story of the day is Sam Konstas, who everyone's been banging on about for a year now after he played such an important role in that Under-19s World Cup win, that 100 against the Windies a couple of years ago as an underage player as well. Got his debut last season, made a 50 in the final round, but rattling off 152 on opening day against South Australia. He only turned 19 a few days ago. There's so much made of his meditation and his breathing exercises and being mentored by Shane Watson. I've seen one online poll saying, should he be picked in the Test team against India in a few weeks? Is it Bancroft or is it Konstas? I think
Get him in there.
It was a bit tongue-in-cheek maybe, but Phil Jakes loves him. Same club as Jakes. He's the coach. And there's a lot going for this guy. I feel like I should start watching him play cricket soon because I feel like we're going to spend a long time watching him play for Australia.
Yeah, I love how pumped people get off the back of literally one Shield innings, and suddenly they're going to save the world. We shall see. Lloyd Pope did that, didn't he, in an Under-19s World Cup? Took 8 for saviour, next big thing. But he's back. He was back in this side at Silverwater Prison, 3 for 61. Didn't bowl many overs, so he was expensive, but he got wickets. Sort of wonder if he can crack it. Ollie Davies, who obviously there's been a close eye on recently, made 37. Ryan Phillippe, Cruel Intentions, made 52. Down the order, supporting Sam Konstas. So 297 for 7, reasonable day for New South Wales.
And Phillippe playing his first game for New South Wales there in Shield cricket, having come over from West Australia during the off-season. And Konstas, he didn't just get 100, 152. It does really stand out on the page, doesn't it? So good on him. He was born in 2005, which is fucking
that's frightening.
Well. Yeah, I know, right? And then it was the old pros for the Vicks down at the Juno, 330 for 7. It was a funny old day. There were wickets. I think the scores were 222, then 2 wickets fell with the score on about 200 odd, then 2 more fell when the score was about 300 odd. But in the middle of all of that, of course, it was Marcus Harris who makes a habit of scoring bulk runs in October and November for the Vicks. He made
At the
143.
Jono. Harris at the Jono. That should
Name
be the name of his biography. Yeah. You should
rename the ground after Marcus Harris.
No, just rename the pitch. Just rename the strip, the wicket square.
Yeah, and Pete Hanscom, who had a sensational season with Leicestershire, averaging 80-odd in Division 2 of the county championship. 129, leading the Vicks. Will Sutherland's injured at the moment. Or I think he's on, they're managing him, aren't they, with his back and so on. So Pete comes back and captains the team, former guest of the show, friend of the show. Great to see him get 100 and a huge smile on his face. Beautiful photo that was circulating online of how wrapped Pete was when he reached three figures.
Yeah, so they finished the day with Rob O'Neill's dog, Fergus, on 9 not out. Well played by the canine. Final words, Lawrence Neil Smith picked up Sam Harper. 3 wickets for Gabe Bell. That's the Tassie Victoria game. I think we're due a break.
I think we are as well. On the other side of it, well, we have plenty to get through as always. Tis Final Word. It's the cricket podcast that I make. I'm Adam Collins. He makes it as well. He's Jeff Lemon. It's season 17, episode 2, and it's brought to you by Ambassador Cruise Line. Jeff, don't you hate this time of year in England?
Yes, that's why I left. Yeah. I'm so much happier.
Sure, some people love their autumnal walks and Sunday roasts, and fair enough. And, I'm kind of one of them. I don't mind pitching up to the pub on a Sunday and having a roast. But real cricket people like us, what we crave are our long summer nights. Well, we have the very best way for you to take winter by the scruff of the neck with Ambassador Cruise Line and their Cricket's Legend Cruise from the 12th to the 19th of December. Firstly, your shipmates who can transport the sounds of summer to you. Aggers, Blowers, Gucci and Tudes. That marvellous quartet will regale you with tales from those warm summer days in faraway lands. And they'll do so while you sail between some of Europe's port towns, some of the most beautiful port towns as well. It's here where you can sample the best of Europe's charming winter markets, cobbled streets and festive cheer this December in Holland, Belgium and France. The legends of summer combined with the best of winter. That is quite the combination. All at the ridiculously generous starting price of 559 quid per person. We did this on Storytime the other day. I was when I said to Heavy last week when we did this, what do you reckon this would have cost? He goes, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 grand. Nah, 559 to start with, then a 10% discount because of us. Once you book, and
so you come in at about 500 flat. You couldn't get a holiday in for 7 nights for that.
Yeah, I agree. Now doing the family holidays with the girls each year, it's tough going booking accommodation in Europe, and you'll be sailing away, beating the winter blues. 10% off with final word 10 at checkout, ambassadorcruiseline.com. That's all in the show notes. It's as easy as Graham Gooch punching off the back foot. Listening to the show on the go and you can't process that information, look in the show notes, final word 10 at checkout. Tell us all about it. Go along. Ambassador Cruise Line, giving you the chance to cruise with cricket legends this summer.
Easy to do. And if you were stuck in England for the winter, why not? Why not be in the more picturesque part of Europe's wintry landscape? A word also for NordVPN. I know a lot of people are still picking up the Nord. You're a family man, Adam. I know this because I've been spending a fair bit of time entertaining your small daughters over the last little while. But it will not be long until they want to be on the internet. They want to have whatever the version of Instagram will be in, I don't know, probably about 5 minutes' time. Families, NordVPN, protect your whole household with one NordVPN account. So all your shared gadgets, you can do 10 devices on it. You can make sure that you've got firewall protection. You can make sure that no one can access the data for everyone else in your family. So it's not just you, but Rach, kids can all be looked after online. Secure every device on your network by installing it on your router. And there's a kill switch feature which stops any data leaking when you lose the VPN connection. So it makes sure that nobody can hop in at just the right time to get hold of sensitive information. So all of those things are things you can do.
10 devices, previously 6, 111 countries, previously 60. That's more than half the world. Thanks to nordvpn.com/TFW, 30-day money-back guarantee, all the usual information about the discount with us, the extra months on top of that. You're going to need a VPN at some point. Get one with us. Get one for the year, nordvpn.com/TFW. We were watching a bit of, as Winnie always says, I want to watch YouTube. And the other day we were watching YouTube clips of the Wonder Years because she's kind of learnt that she's in no small part named after Winnie Cooper. So
Okay.
she's slightly obsessed with looking at photos of Danica McKellar now. Show me Winnie Cooper when she's
really
old.
mirrors your childhood, almost exactly.
So we're watching all, YouTube don't have full episodes, nor does anyone in the UK, evidently. But
If you'd been, when you were 7, if you'd been able to Google pictures of Winnie Cooper at any time you wanted, you would have done nothing else. You would have just laid in a hammock and just stared dreamily into her eyes.
That's it. So yes, Winnie has been. We try and keep YouTube away from her, but I'm sure you're right that the time will come soon enough when we need to amuse her overseas, and she needs her logins, and when she does, she'll be able to use her NordVPN because she'll probably have 1 or 2 of the 10 logins. Jeff, we haven't done a Nerd Pledge number on the weekly show for a while, and given that we've got the chance to do one today because we're together, why not? Why don't you have a crack?
Why not? This is a revisit. This is Nerd Pledge, the game we play with nice people on the internet who fund this program by sending in contributions financially in a configuration that relates to cricket in some way. We have to figure out what it means. Chris Byrne sent in £18.77, a nice generous pledge. A while ago, I did a story about 1877 and the first Test match, and Chris has replied.
Yes, well, he said he loved the arc from 1877 and those first Test matches, with England only being in pole position for cap numbers during the first year.
You remember how I was talking about that's the only time that England had fewer Test caps than Australia?
Oh, right. Yeah. Now I understand the reference point. As he says here, it's a reference to the balance between the nations, with Australia most of the time having the ascendancy across, nearly 150 years. Chris goes on to say, sadly, my 1877 was far more parochial. There would have been a perfect segue into the correct answer when Adam was taking us through Surrey's tedious procession of county championships and other trophies from 1890 to present. All I can say is that, quote, football wasn't invented in 1992, end quote, and my pledge could easily have been 1874, 1876 or 1873. I think I have an idea where this is going.
Yeah, I think you will. Football wasn't invented in 1992, so we're talking Premier League era, whatever they call it. What's the official name for the?
Well, it was the Football League until it was the Premier League, and that's when the breakaway happened, and Sky and Murdoch and all the rest of it. So, the reference. Always, a lot of people complain about that, and they, when someone will say, well, Manchester United's won X Premier League titles. I'm like, what about all the other?
What about all the others?
First division titles before 1992 and that kind of thing?
Well, and it is weirdly monochromatic when you look at the modern winners: United, Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then the one season anomalies being Leicester City and Blackburn Rovers. That's it. That's the job lot. Why people watch it year after year, I cannot fathom. Just to watch the same teams finish up at the top of the table over and over again. Who's got more money? That's all it's about. But before that point, a lot of a more boutique range of teams did win titles. Leeds, Everton, Aston Villa, Forest, Derby City, I think.
Derby,
Ipswich
Town. Derby was the Brian Clough, the Brian Clough team before he, the damned United and all the rest of it, which I'm sure you saw when it was at the cinemas many years ago. But that's I found that when watching that film, like fuck, no, Derby, who, seldom are in the top flight. I don't think they've been in the Premier League for like 20 odd years. It's not that long ago when you could conceivably be a team that would, kind of go up the football pyramid and win the thing.
Yeah, well, Tottenham won it, a team that I only associate with not winning things. Quite a bit of internal conflict when Ange Postecoglou went there, because obviously, if you're Australian, everybody loves Ange. But I was like, even you're not going to be able to do anything with Tottenham, surely. They won it in 1961, God knows how.
First team
Burnley.
To do a double. That was the League and Cup in 61 for Tottenham, which is like their big famous year.
Yeah, well, their only one. Burnley won it. Wolves, Portsmouth, Sunderland did it before the war. Hello to those way up north. Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield Town, West Bromwich Albion. Jesus, I remember them. Remember that last round, the last game of the season when they were trying not to get relegated in about 2005 with what was his name? Something Horse. Anyway, there was like a last minute winner that kept them up. It was ridiculous. First touch off the bench. Anyway. All of those teams actually won what was the silverware at the time. It just wasn't the Premier League. The Freaks, Gloucestershire, have officially never won the county championship. They have been runners-up 6 times. But There was not a county championship before 1890, but there were still champion counties who were decided more randomly, basically by whoever decided to write things in the press and come to a general agreement across the newspapers. So Gloucestershire were named as the champion county in not just 1877, but also 1876, 1874, and as we had the even, he said, even in 1873, said Chris, that year they shared it with Nottinghamshire by media consensus. Everyone played different numbers of games. So Gloucestershire played 6-1-4, Notts played 7 and 1-5, which I would think would make them better, but mostly it was kind of done on who lost the fewest number of games. So it was like, well, they both lost 2, so on that basis it was awarded potentially. Like Surrey played 14 times and only won twice that year. Yorkshire won 7 games, but they played 12, so they lost more. So yeah, it was pretty much newspaper journos, the write-up that I was looking at. So the title remained unofficial, except that the idea was widely promoted by individuals in the contemporary press. Each tended to have his own ideas about the calculation method and matches to be included, but there was a certain amount of consensus, generally favouring the team with fewest defeats. So basically it was a pub argument in the paper, and they would kind of say, okay, we broadly agree that this side is the best this year.
I mentioned last week or the week before, Jeff, that I've been reading about the 1924 county championship season with those 100-year updates that get sent through, which I'm quite interested by. And that stood out to me as well, even then. So Yorkshire won the comp in 1924, having played 30 games, and Middlesex was second, having played 22 games. And how they worked it out was with old-fashioned match percentage back to the 1993 NFL season.
World Test
which
Championship.
We now have in the World
What
Test
did Usman
Championship.
Khawaja have to say about 1924? Did he have a view?
So Yorkshire had a 76.52. I'm not sure whether it was a percentage of available points or whatever it worked out to be, but a 16-win, 3-loss season and 7 no results. It must have rained a bit up north that year. And then Middlesex were at 69%, having won 11, lost 3, and having had a series of other draws and a couple of no results. And then you go down to Glamorgan, who only played 21 games. So, yeah, that variability between, what county played how many games, that took a long time to work its way through the system. And obviously now we have 14 games. If I had my way, everyone would play 16 games, 2 divisions of 9, as it was until 2016. Elegant draw, home and away. I know that there's a push to make the county championship 12 games or even 10 games. I'd go the other way and have 16 games and account for the fact that so many days of cricket get rained off in this country. I know it's hard, but I don't think that's completely bonkers. Anyway, it's not exactly popular thinking that these days.
No. Let's have timeless. We'll have 10 timeless county matches. Do something like that. Put the rain out of the picture. So yeah, that is the answer for Chris Byrne. I'm pretty confident. Gloucestershire being the Sheffield Wednesday of the county championship. Send us a nerd pledge if you want to play the game. Patreon.com/thefinalword. It is how we're able to make the show. It's how we're able to have a team of 4 people making a women's T20 World Cup daily for almost 3 weeks out of the UAE.
Yeah, I wanted to say that at the end that this is the sort of stuff. A lot of people have said nice things about the fact that we're doing the dailies from the UAE. Like, yeah, and that's great. I love all of that. But there's a reason why we can do it. It's the patron community. If not for that, it would be a moot point. So thank you to everyone who's been a patron over the years, who has signed up recently through a very, very busy 2024 so far. A bumper next 12 months coming up. I don't think we stop. Even more won't stop than usual between now and the end of the Ashes. Men's Ashes, that is, which finishes, I think, in the middle of January 2026, would you believe? So
yep.
This is a long run, and the way we can do things on our terms is by having a robust patron community. So join that, jump on Discord, be part of everything that we do, which includes the live shows, which are selling nicely at the moment. More information about them, hopefully next week, in relation to which guests are coming and the after party that I'm floating for Melbourne, which I'm getting closer to getting up at the moment, which will be fun. And yes, that is comes with a discount if you are one of our patrons, and all the information for our live shows around Australia are in the show notes. Jeff, to whiz through our second segment here, a bit of a lap around the world, not a long one, but one that's worth doing. Tim Southee has stepped down as New Zealand's Test captain. We're going to see, a bit of a Back to the Future Tom Latham return, because I know that Kane Williamson was captain of New Zealand, but Latham led the Black Caps more often than Williamson did for a couple of years there when he was injured so often. So after being formally in charge for a couple of years, Tim Southee, 14 test matches for 6 wins, And yeah, I don't know, where are they at? Like, where was Generation Next in this conversation? Like, I thought Daryl Mitchell possibly, but then I know Daryl Mitchell sometimes doesn't like sound like a captain, if that makes sense. He says things that make you feel like maybe he may not be best placed for a job like that. I don't know. That's all perception, but I am somewhat surprised they're going to someone who, A, has basically been captain before, and B, has been, well, it's diminishing returns for Latham for a long stretch of time as a batter in the side.
Maybe get creative. Maybe Matt Henry should captain that side. You know, he's somebody who displays the leadership on field, and they don't play that much Test cricket, so keeping him fit for all of it shouldn't be impossible. I felt like it was a retrograde step, even when they appointed Southee in the first place. Like, they made him captain at a point when he probably shouldn't have been a guaranteed pick in the side. He was still in contention to get picked, but he wasn't necessarily a lock in their best 11 all the time. I thought his judgment was very poor, particularly around playing Scott Kuggeleijn. You know, Southee had an influence in that to whatever extent it was, and didn't grapple with that at all. Just was happy to let that slide and pretend that it wasn't a problem. And you know, was leading that side without a great deal of awareness. You know, even the Afghanistan photo op, I would have thought somebody with a bit more wherewithal might have looked at that and said, you know what, this isn't good. Let's not do this. Let's find another way to do this. Or at least gone through the right channels to do it. There's been a lack of willingness to actually look at problems head on, I think, with Southee, who maybe just, I'm not sure what his personal capabilities are, whether it's something that isn't there or not, or whether it's something where he was just trying not to make waves. But having him step down seems, you know, I don't think he should have been leading that side in the first place. But yeah, where they go with Latham, I don't think that injects anything new into the equation, put it that way.
Yeah, and look, it's not a character assassination of Tom Latham to say that that his best cricket,
he's been there and done that.
It's a fair way in the past, so they're asking a lot of him. I suppose we're nearing the end of the World Test Championship cycle, so he might be something of a caretaker captain. Time will tell. Sri Lanka have doubled down on their acting coach. Sanath Jayasuirya took over.
Well, he loves doubling down. The man with two phones.
He took over from Chris Silverwood earlier in the year, and they have gone on something of a roll, right? They beat India in a limited over series for the first time in like ever, 27 years, I think it was. They're in the frame for the World Test Championship final after doing so well. They won their most recent series 2-0 against New Zealand, but also pinching a test in England at the end of that series, which proves quite important with the way the points are broken down. They almost have their destiny in their own hands as it relates to what they've got coming in South Africa, I think, from memory, and then they finish off playing Australia at home. So we know that Jayasuirya got into all sorts of trouble as chief selector. One of his stints there with the aforementioned two phones incident, which saw him in all sorts of strife around probity and around, I'm not sure, I can't remember anymore what he was alleged to have done specifically, but it wasn't good.
Well, it was just that they couldn't track the information. There was information that should have been tendered that wasn't to an anti-corruption probe.
That's right. But I suppose it's very Sri Lankan cricket, isn't it? That that at a time that continues to there's still political volatility in that country. I've been following Fidel Fernando's tweets of late. I mean, I haven't been reading about it deeply, but it sounds like there's still quite a lot going on in that country. And that's the time when Jayasuirya gets the chance to lead it once again.
Yeah, well, not to say it's only Sri Lankan. You know, Mark Waugh was an Australian selector and he took money off a bookie and all the rest of it. But I suppose with Jayasuirya, he's such a star presence that whatever probity issues you have, if you're a player, if you're a 23-year-old playing for Sri Lanka at the moment, you don't give a shit about something the ICC may have been annoyed about once upon a time. You care about the fact that he's Sanath Jayasuirya and he's the guy who went out there in the 90s and smashed bowling attacks all over the place, and that would be exciting. So there probably is, it's a bit like the Andrew Flintoff thing, there's a bit of a celebrity sort of charisma injection that he brings just by weight of personality, and in the short term, that whether that's a cause or not, I mean, it's always, with coaching, it's always so intangible. You don't know what's actually the reason, but it coincides with them having a good run of results. So if everybody's feeling good about it, well, you might as well use the resources at your disposal. And Sri Lankan cricket is not overflowing with great options necessarily for these top-end jobs.
Speaking of charisma, one of everyone's favourite cricketers is Paul Sterling, and he's led Ireland to a one-day international victory over South Africa and the UAE. Now, we talked about this series last week that they levelled the T20 series, 1-1 there, but in the one days, they got towed up quite badly in the first two matches, losing by 139 and 174 runs, respectively. Rickleton making runs in the first game and Stubbs making a quick century in the second, with Lazard Williams taking 4 for, then 3 for. But on the third day, they rose again. They made 284 for 9 with Sterlo, the captain these days, making 88. Harry Tector, the coming man, getting 60. Early wickets meant that South Africa were under a lot of pressure, chasing 285 to win. Jason Smith was still there. He got 91. Never really heard much about Jason Smith before, but he's a 29-year-old all-rounder with a very 90s name. Jason Smith sounds like, he played halfback flank for Richmond in 1992.
Sounds like a home and away guy.
Or a home and away guy, that as well. It all works. Could be both. And I'm quite buoyed. Quite buoyed. I'm really happy that two quicks for Ireland who occasionally get beaten up a little bit as being, this is an emblem of where they're not quite quick enough, not quite dynamic enough. Graham Hume and Craig Young, both of them take 3 for. And they bowl out South Africa for 215 to earn themselves a 69-run win. So it's no longer a big deal when Ireland win games like this. They won loads of games when they were in the one-day World Cup Super League between 2019 and 2022. But still, it's one of those things that, it's a reminder that they aren't that far away. On their best day, I mean, they've beaten South Africa twice in the space of a week. That's not for nothing when South Africa made the World Cup semi only a year ago.
And South Africa are offering teams the opportunity to beat them who wouldn't, at their best, wouldn't go toe-to-toe. They got thrashed by Afghanistan in that series. But because they're picking, they're having to pick not entirely second string, but partly second string sides in order to fulfill a touring party, because a lot of their best players are in demand elsewhere, and South Africa don't have the money to compete at that sort of level. So there is that, in a way, it's good for world cricket a level below, because it gives teams an opportunity to beat South Africa, and they don't care if a few players are missing. That's still an opportunity for them, like for Afghanistan to do it for the first time, I think, and for Ireland to notch another couple across the formats. So in a way, it's beneficial, although it's not. It doesn't reflect. It doesn't reflect the situation in South Africa well, but it offers something to other sides.
Yeah, like if it were a World Cup game, it'd be a very different 11 on paper. But I agree with you that we're going to have to get used to the idea that in bilateral series, especially white ball bilateral series, that a lot of teams around the world aren't going to be able to field their best 11 at all. And Australia are guilty of this too in different ways. And by guilty, I mean they rarely turn out their air quotes best team.
Sure.
They weren't doing it last week in England. The series you were covering was an Australian team that was doing a lot of work for the future, a lot of heavy lifting.
The first game of that series, the bowling attack was Ben Dwarshuis, Aaron Hardy, and Sean Abbott.
Exactly.
It's not Australia's best bowling attack, but you also can't play the same players week in, week out for 50 weeks a year.
Jeff, just to go to domestic cricket in England, it's the end of season. I wouldn't call it silly season, but we're kind of nearing the silly season. On the way into that, Liam Dawson and Catherine Bryce won the big PCA gongs last week. I didn't realise just how close that Dawson came to doing something extraordinary. He took 54 wickets and made about 970 runs, so probably one innings away from being the first player in 13 years to do the 1,000 runs, 50 wickets double. He should be in Pakistan, Liam Dawson. I think it's a travesty that he's
It is.
He's just so fucking good. And his last 2 years have been unbelievable for Hampshire. So I wish he had been considered for this trip. I don't know, maybe he didn't ask to be. He didn't want to go to India because he was keen to prioritise making money in short-form cricket. But anyway, that's just a frustration that someone as capable as Dawson isn't getting the chance to add to his 5 or 6 test caps at the moment in Multan. And Catherine Bryce, she's been a guest on our show, and what a great story that is. I mean, not being from England and being the best player in England's domestic tournament and competitions across the board is quite a thing. So congratulations to both of them. And the player movement, bits and bobs, not insignificant, I reckon, in terms of the week we've
County
seen.
Championship Trade Radio. Strap in for the next 4 weeks.
It's not a bad idea, Jeff. I mean,
it's a terrible idea.
We'll put it this way: if I can get Volcano to come and host it with us, who has been brilliant in drumming up headlines about saying rugby league's a rubbish sport since the grand final, which is very, very funny. Love Kane. It might work, but if it's just us, probably not. But Matt Fisher is moving to Surrey from Yorkshire. He was in the England Test team 2 years ago, so that's a good get for Surrey. But they've done it by freeing up cap space with Connor McKerr, who's been not getting as many opportunities as his talent would suggest he should be getting. He's going up to Notts. Ben Gedders, who's again, absolute gun in the Surrey pathway, but no spot for him in the first 11 too often. He's moving across the Thames to Middlesex. Martin Anderson's leaving Middlesex and going back to Derby, where he actually made his first class debut many years ago on loan, about 6 or 7 years ago. Chris Benjamin, who's a very capable Warwickshire player who Glenn Maxwell had a bit to do with, he's off to Kent. Stephen Croft, the legend of Lancashire, who was instrumental to them winning the county championship back in 2011, he's hung up the boots at age 39. So well done to Stephen Croft. What a player he's been. And on the women's side of the ledger, Jeff, we're now seeing player movement there as well, because we move from the regional structure to the first class counties next year. So Lauren Filer, interesting one, right? She's played at the Western Storm, which is the franchise, well, not franchise, the region that captures the southwest of England, and she's gone up to Durham, the other side of the country, the other extreme of the country, on a 3-year deal. That's a great bit of shopping, getting Lauren Filer, who I think it's reasonable to assume will be near enough to leading that England attack for the next 5 or 6 years. And in the short term, Durham will be the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, well, inspired by when Sunderland won the league in 1935 or thereabouts. She's just decided to make that move. It is pace country up there. Mark Wood up there, Bryden Cass up there, the way that Ryan Campbell's been running the men's program. They're starting a women's program under, I don't know how much interrelation there'll be between the two, but hopefully a bit.
Yep.
So maybe there's something to it there. In that quick bowlers have, and Stokes is up there from time to time as well. So whether there's backing for faster bowlers up there.
Well, they're getting the facility. That's a big part of the reason why Durham got a gig, right? Because they're letting them use the Riverside for every game. So I think there will be quite a bit of interconnection between the men and the women. And I guess the other part of this story is that Somerset, the counties that didn't get picked up as tier one. That's the other complexity here. You had to kind of pick and choose. And I know there were options in the southwest, but anyway, that's all to play out over the winter. And last bit of news, Jeff, we had Dr. Tom Brown on the show last year, who started the brilliant South Asian Cricket Academy. Well, they've got their first representative player. Yorkshire leggy Jaffa Chauhan has been picked in the 19-man squad for the England Lions tour of South Africa in November and December. He was, this guy who wowed everyone in the nets at Leeds one day. They're like, wow, who's this guy? And there wasn't the room for him to progress. And the South Asian Cricket Academy's been the link in the chain. He's played sort of 20-odd games in the Blast in the last 2 years and done a good job. And now he'll be getting a chance to play under Freddie Flintoff, who's coaching that team. So, yeah, it's just a really good story about something that didn't exist until 2 years ago. And it's now putting guys on the cusp of playing for England. It's very special.
Yeah, and more leg spinners. That's what we need. Like the attrition rate is high with leg spinners. It's you can make it to first class level and then disappear pretty quickly. So you do need players who are willing to take on that difficult job and not just use it as a way to try to become specialist batters later in their career, as most of them seem to do. Rehan Ahmed, looking at you. Keep working on the back of the hand stuff. So yeah, it's exciting to see. Tom Brown's done a remarkable job setting that up, and hopefully a lot more to come.
Jeff, time for us to go to our second break. On the other side of it, we're shifting gears here. We're going back 40 years to 1984 to Canberra, when Bob Hawke, ever the enthusiast, got himself in a little bit of strife. And you'll be hearing me having a conversation with Andrew Probyn, a senior journalist in Canberra.